Well, I'll ask you right now. You're a betting man. You're still taking the Bruins in this series, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think there's going to be some adjustments. I do think Grizzlick's probably going to be in there for Game 3. I do think Patrice Bergeron, if the series wears on, is going to return at some point and be a factor when he does come back. And look, we have not seen even close to what the Bruins are and what they've been all year in the first couple of games. And I think you have to have a little faith in them that they are going to get back to what their norm and their standard was the entire year prior to this point. Like, I think they just and this was the worry, and I mentioned this at the top, and this is the worry going into this, is that they were so far ahead of everybody else, setting records, doing all kinds of other things, that they didn't have to face the furious competition and have their lives on the line hockey-wise, like the Panthers did for the last couple of months of the season. And I think that's shown in the level of intensity, speed, and physicality that the two teams are playing with in the first couple of games. And I think the Bruins, now with having lost that game at home, having Ryan Lomberg trying to choke out Trent Frederick on the ice in the middle of a pile at the end of the third period, having Matthew Tkachuk, chirping Thomas Noshik, all kinds of stuff about his family from what I saw in the video, like having all these nasty things happening that the Panthers are doing to the Boston Bruins now that like screams playoff hockey, like they're in it to win it and they're playing for keeps. I think now is the time when the Bruins wake up and finally figure that out after this wake-up call of a game too. So I do think things are going to turn when it goes down to Florida, and we're going to see a different Boston Bruins team. Just like, they need to react, but to some of the stuff that was happening at the end of that game too, when they were clearly angry after the game was over. You saw Trent Frederick visibly angry. Clearly, Charlie McAvoy was pissed off in that locker room as well. There were a bunch of Bruins players that were mad about the way things went down at the end of that game, and now they need to respond to that going forward.
Yeah, and I tweeted it. I saw it. I did not use the language in my tweet that Frederick used, but it was along the lines of, I'm going to look for me next game. It's the train is coming.
Lomberg's about 5'9", 175 pounds, so I think Frederick's going to make a point to find him. I mean, Lomberg is turning into a enemy, certainly a Boston Bruins fan enemy, public enemy number one kind of guy. I thought it was going to be Matthew Tkachuk, who was doing his thing as well. But Lomberg had a couple of penalties last night, really sneaky dirty, the stuff that he does on the ice, and going for the chokehold on Frederick at the end there. I think that cinches it that he's going to become a villain in this series, which is awesome. I mean, that's what we want. It's not awesome that Frederick was getting choked out, but as somebody that follows hockey, you want the heroes and villains, you want the people crossing the line, you want the passion, the hate on the ice. All that stuff seems like it's starting to happen in this series, and as a hockey fan, that's really all you can ask for.
What made the Vancouver series so great? Guys like Aaron Burroughs, the villains on the other side.
Fighting Patrice Bergeron. Nobody will ever forgive him for that.
You loved all of it. The hatred matters, and you got to build it up in the playoffs. But we did allude to changes. Let's talk about, you need a change in attitude. You need all of a sudden to snap into playoff mode, which again they admitted in Game 1 they were oddly. Don't expect that from a group that's kind of has a veteran presence and the grown-ups in the room. Obviously Bergeron not being there hurts. Yep. But having Marchand flat out say, like, we played a little nervous, didn't expect that necessarily, but you do have to take it into consideration. There's not a lot of big-time playoff experience among some of the key members of this team. You take it for granted because you're used to seeing it with Krejci and Marchand and Bergeron. That's one. Attitude is one. But the other, as we said, Jim Montgomery promised that he would at least consider some changes.